People have a tendency to judge others' lives, but yet we all experience a unique journey, really. The things we go through in our life are unique to us, even if it seems similar to someone else. And sometimes what we consider something terrible is not as bad as what someone else experiences, and likewise, what someone else experiences might not be as bad as what we're going through. There's always levels to this, but it's unique. But our experiences are unique to us, and it's how we process it. I have a situation with my daughter that's been just going on for years. I had to fight through family court after an abrupt separation, where I was faced with a lot of false accusations. That was probably the hardest period of my life, but yet it seems so far away now. But I recognise that since then, life has rarely been simple or straightforward. It's always been challenging, complicated, and unnecessarily awkward at times. So a lot of the time, the situation with my daughter hindered career, hindered progress, hindered my personal life. It was just like everything was a roadblock. I always had to be ready on the get-go, you know. When I watch other parents that are split, it seems so much simpler. Now, not all of them, but even those that don't have it simple and it's a little complicated isn't as bad. Because for me, the distance is unbearable. My ex-partner relocated to a new partner, which was a secret relationship. And it was like, that's what she hid that behind the accusations and set an agenda for why she left. But it wasn't, it was a relationship. She relocated, I think it's 250 miles. It's the other end of the country, pretty much. So for me to have my daughter home, finally, after family court, we finally get something established. Even throughout family court, I was doing all the travel. So I would travel 250 miles to collect her on a Friday and then bring her home straight away from school. So I would have to drive 500 miles that day. That's insane. Then I would do the same on the Sunday to take her home because her mother wouldn't travel now. That's a lot. That's a lot. And that was every other weekend. But that become normal. It's like I had no choice. If I want to spend time with her, it has to be that. Because it's no life to sort of have to travel up and stay in a hotel. We tried that once and it was like, this is so false. It's only when you're home does it feel natural. So you're trying to hold on to that little moment of happiness, that little moment of normality. And that's your entire, every 2 weeks, that's the moment when you feel real. You feel yourself. So the sacrifice is worth the reward because without it, you're lost for that whole period, So during COVID, it was used as a precursor to stop my contact. So I had to reevaluate some things. It was like, this is not sustainable. That is my everything, but it's like breaking me. It's literally destroying me physically. I was having to get energy drinks, coffees, as whatever I can just to get through the driving. And I realized it was destroying me. I can't continue that lifestyle. You want to be a hero, but we have limits. So within that period, I'm sort of like trying to destabilize. I'm trying to like establish myself, trying to keep some sort of semblance of normality, trying to build myself up on some normality in my life, that actually is stable for myself, and then I can start building outwards, So it does become. Some would say it's selfish to put yourself first, but if you're not grounded in yourself, then it's unstable all the way through anyway. The structure doesn't hold. It just doesn't. So I ended up going back to family court though, because it's like I'm not having a relationship with my daughter. But again, it was like no one was listening, so I had to walk away. Now I'm very spiritual, so my thoughts may not seem in alignment with other people, but I see what it is. I see a bigger picture, and I know why I do what I do. Even if it wasn't on a spiritual path, but it just intertwines. I recognized that what had led me up to that moment, like I said, it was unstable. It wasn't built for long-term stability. It was very much in the moment, and that's how I was having to live. And I thought, this isn't fair. I'm always left on a shoestring. I'm always having to contend with this drama, this drama, this drama. When does it end, and how does that serve any of us well? Might serve the people well that are pulling the puppet strings, but it doesn't serve the rest of us. So everyone thought it was insane to walk away from family court, because without family court, I may not get to see my daughter until she's older. And I said that to the court. I said, this is on you, because none of you are listening. And until anyone decides to listen to her, to my daughter, then I'm not interested in talking to any of you. It's too biased, and I'm not wasting my time going around in circles. We've done this before. I saw what was going to happen. It was going to be a merry-go-round, lot of time lost, a lot of energy, and it's just going to be draining. Instead, I could use that time to build myself up, work on myself, heal, be a more stable, grounded version of myself, one in which I can thrive and build a better future for her. Because I figured, the courts are not going to make justice for her as a child, so I need to make sure when she's a young adult, we have a level of stability in our lives. And I was prepared to sacrifice that and say, look, I can't control your childhood anymore. I've tried. That's not in my control. And it's something, that's a harsh lesson for me, because I think as most parents, you're very protective of your children. And that's how I am. I've had to lose that level of protection now and allow her to fend for herself to a degree. And she is. She's becoming more independent, speaking up for herself more. So it challenges her to sort of push herself a little bit more outside her comfort zone and not hide behind me so much. So I'm recognizing actually that's worked out quite nicely. But I can't go back to that person that's chasing everywhere anymore. I'm too exhausted. Honestly, I am drained. But I want to be the hero all the time. So I've made it clear to her mother. I mean, we've had to block I've had to block her now, because the mind games just don't end. Even when you think we can put the past behind, it happens again and again and again. But even not long ago, my daughter said, "Mum, if you unblock her, she'll just give you the information." But she didn't. I unblocked her, and straight away she preached at me again, trying to put me down. I was like, I warned you. That's a permanent block. Like, that's literally a permanent block. I don't play games. I've had enough of this. What I also made clear was I'm sick and tired of this last minute stuff. You must know in advance of when you plan something. You surely can't live on the edge of your seat like this, where you just book on a moment, and then I'm supposed to run around like a headless chicken. So I had a substantial time with my daughter at Christmas, which was beautiful. I didn't expect it. We literally got Christmas, New Year. Oh my God. So I'm thinking the next holiday will probably be Easter. I'd like dismissed half term in February, thinking that's not really going to happen, because I don't think they can travel that far. I knew at that period I'm going to be a little bit unstable with finances. I'm still trying to get things organised, still trying to work on things. My life is really not in the best place right now in terms of money. It's hard, like really hard. I'm trying to invest in myself to try and build towards our future. So I bought myself a microphone setup. I can't even really afford it, but I knew it's important. It's important for me to take what I do seriously, build an infrastructure. Bear in mind, I had heard nothing. I don't expect anything till Easter, so I'm like, I can risk this because I'm on my own right now, and I can bear the consequences. Imagine my surprise after everything arrives and I've set it all up, it's all working. They're travelling now. They're going to spend the half term with family, which is near my mum's. But like I said, nothing's ever simple for me. I can't just have a moment where it's like a simple weekend that parents get. And that's where I feel sad in so many ways, because it's exhausting my life. It always is. Everything's harder than it should have to be. I would love to be one of those parents that even if you are split up, you still spend, at the very minimum, your child lives nearby and you can have a quality weekend together. I have to travel 100 miles to spend time with my daughter. And because like my finances are so tight right now, and in the past, the driving literally destroyed my car. I had to downsize to a really old, terrible car that it was an embarrassing car, but I needed it. Recently, I upgraded to a better car, but the last thing I want to do is destroy everything I have. It's not fair. It shouldn't even be, you shouldn't have to lose so much to keep gaining. It's just unreasonable. So rather than them travel to me and then I return her, which is fair, I have to travel to my mother's. And on this occasion, nothing's adding up. It doesn't make it doesn't seem plausible. again, I'm going to look on a spiritual sense. I've done tarot cards on this. Nothing's definitive, but it's leading more towards me not visiting because it's like I can't keep being led on a shoestring. Plus, I have things I need to be working on and building for our future. So what's happening here is for her to come home to me, I would have to drive 100 miles to collect her, 100 miles back home. And then by the end of the week, I've then got to travel again 100 miles to drop her off and 100 miles to get myself home. That's a huge cost in petrol. It's absolutely exhausting. And the biggest problem I have is it always sets me back. Every time I get that familiar feeling that we're home again and I finally have the life I want, the life I dream of, it gets torn away every single time it happens. So you're literally walking yourself towards trauma, knowing you're going to suffer after. And it won't be a day when you get home and then you'll be fine. It'll take at least a week to get some semblance of normality again after. So you lose so much to have something. But again, I'm very spiritual, so I put the pieces together because sometimes there's lessons in everything. Like I said, people can judge your decisions and go, that's very selfish. Well, I wouldn't do that. It's like, no, but consider where your life is and where you're building towards. Keep yourself on a shoestring. You'll always be on a shoestring. Sometimes you have to have those tough moments to create a new narrative, to create a new life. You know, I've made it clear, stop doing everything such short notice. Inform me of your decisions. Because what my daughter said is that they all knew about the travel, but they didn't know if they could afford it. So they didn't want to bother me until they knew. And I'm like, well, telling me on a Friday that you're traveling on Sunday and you get asked the holiday and I knew nothing of it at all, I don't think that's very fair. You know, that's not very fair. I think that's unreasonable considering if someone told me a few days ago, before that, I wouldn't have invested in my new hardware for this. So why should I keep having to destroy everything? So I build something up, I then get a better infrastructure. Then someone makes a decision that I'm unaware of, and that always affects my life. So on the one hand, I could return everything, try and claw some of that money back so then I can travel. But why should I always have to lose to gain? It's just unrealistic. So although she's my world, I think lessons need to be taught as well. Sometimes we have to lose a moment to establish some sort of order, you know, some sort of freaking normality in our lives. And I think too many get put under pressure to be perfect all the time. And that's the pressure I put myself under all night. All night I've been beating myself up about this. And I have arguments with spirit. Now, if you're not spiritual, you can think it's crazy, but I know they guide me. And I'm like, why can't you make things clear and obvious to me? This is not fair. I shouldn't have to be put in the middle all the time like this. Can't win either way, you know. But I know there's another thing as well. My mum, the bed was getting old, so she's thrown the spare bed out. And I'm like, if you look at the signs, I can't afford to travel. It's going to put me, like, when I get home, I can't even afford food if I do that. That's how bad it is right now. But we have to go from rags to riches, you know. We have to go from the lows to reach the highs. It's like, it can seem embarrassing, but it's part of the journey. And I'm okay. I'm on my own. I can handle it. But not an ideal situation. So I'm like, that's not very good. Then on the other side of that, I've already said about the timing. It's ridiculous. Why would you travel such short notice like that? Even if I hadn't invested in anything, that's ridiculous to put me on a shoestring like that. On the other side of that, when I bought my microphone, I used my tarot cards. And I was like, I can't afford this microphone. I know I need it if I'm going to take this serious. So is Spirit going to support me through this and find a way to help me pay for this damn thing? Because I don't know how I'm going to cope after. And I got 9 of Cups, which was like wish fulfillment, your wishes, you know, fulfill wishes. So imagine my surprise the next day. My daughter's traveling, and I'm like, well, why would you tell me to buy a microphone if she's traveling? It doesn't make sense to me. This doesn't add up. So we've got all that. Then there's not even a bed at my mum's. And I'm like, if this isn't Spirit telling me not to travel, I don't know what is. Now, so much of me is pulling me towards her. And that's my ego. That's mine. So your ego is your brain and your mind pulling you towards something. It's an expectation. It's a desire to be a hero. But the other part we have to learn, and as a parent it's incredibly hard, and most will never learn it, is our children need to learn their own lessons as well. So they have to go through some things. She never spends time with her the grandparents and that side of the family on her mother's side. Never. They don't always treat her fairly. It's not a place she finds comfortable. So I'm always saving her from it. I always try and keep her with me because that's where she wants to be. And they've sort of given up spending time with her. They just seem to give it to me now. After so long fighting to have time with her, they always give it to me now. And it's like, in my opinion, she should be home living with me by now. That should have been what was happening. That's where she's comfortable. On a basic level, even without that, we shouldn't have to keep having a relationship at my mother's home. It's been too long. I literally just recently did her bedroom where I put some of those fake flowers all over her over the ceiling and near around and the walls near her bed, like the girls like. She hasn't even seen it. So now there's a holiday period appeared, and I definitely haven't got enough money to travel both journeys. For me to travel, we would have to spend it at my mum's home. And I'm thinking, this is unnatural. This is ridiculous. Our time together from now on should be at my home. And it shouldn't be for me to travel 100 miles and then straight away take her back to mine another 100 miles. This is not a run. This is not like down the road trips, this. This is 2 hours each way. So 4 hours of driving. It's crazy. It is a crazy existence we have to live through, you know. I know on the outside it's going to seem like you should be sacrificing everything to have those moments. And believe me, a huge part of me pulls towards that too. But if you don't make a stand, what changes? Every holiday is the same thing. We've seen slow change, but it's always the same because the other parties just seem to take it for granted that you're going to come in like a hero. My daughter said that to me in the past. Mum knows you'll always come because you always do. It's like, that's a funny game to play. You know, when you have that much control over someone's life, you just have no regard for them. So you just make them have that shoestring life. And I'm thinking, I'm far more than that. It's not for me to make these decisions because effectively I put the weight of everything on me. Like I have to solve it all. I have to be the hero. I have to take the breadcrumbs. I have to jump around like all these hurdles. And it's like, why do I have to run around after these hurdles? Because that's the rules they play. That's the game. That's the rules of the game they've made. And it's like, well, I can only play the game they give me. And I don't agree with the way this game is being played. So let's change the game. The only way to change the game is to make a stand. And that's what I have to do. This time round, I'm forced to because the finances are that bad. So I think Spirit is pushing me to make a stand on this occasion. Because like I said, I've made it clear. Let me know in advance. How could you plan anything? The planning is absolutely atrocious on this occasion. It's bad enough giving someone that short notice. But the timing was surreal when I just invested in equipment. So it's like, that doesn't make sense. If we're going to go on a spiritual path here, it doesn't make sense. If I was supposed to see her, I wouldn't have got the microphone the day before. I was even told. It doesn't add up. Things don't add up. And it was just like I felt when I walked away from family court. You could say that's even worse a decision. But things got better after that to an extent. You know, family court was just going to drag me on for another year. I saw it. Think what you can achieve in a year if you're never going to get the result anyway. So if you're not going to get the result in family court and it's quite obvious as a bias, why waste a year of your life fighting it? That's your ego. That's your ego running with it. That's your ego telling you have to, I have to, I have to. No, you don't. No, you don't, because you can only deal with what you're being offered. You know, you can't beat yourself up because someone isn't being fair. Someone offers you a breadcrumb and then you're not a good parent because you're not playing the game. That's not the case at all. I'm not refusing to spend time with my daughter. I'm saying if you could have brought her here to me, we would have definitely spent time together. And I would have returned her. That's fair. That's half and half. That's a one-way travel. Like I said, there's no beds at my mum's home. It's just impractical. And I don't, again, it's not a natural way of being. This is ridiculous. It's like we're camping. We're being forced to go camping. What on earth is this? What games are we playing here? This isn't the game I'm playing. I'm not playing this weird game of life anymore. You know, I want a stable life. I want a normal life. I want a life where you can plan things in advance and not be dominated and dictated by nonsense. Because that's what I'm being given. It's destroying any sense of stability for me. So even if I want to build of something and I want to plan this holiday and I want to plan this and I want to do this, I can't do anything because I'm always left on these last ditch moments. You can have this, we come in this, that is so unhelpful. What can I plan? So effectively, anytime I try to build a career, it's going to get destroyed, isn't it? If I jump every time someone says jump, what can I build in that time? I lived this life for a long period. So, like I said, some people can see that it's selfish, but they haven't been in my shoes. I've lived that life where I've jumped after people and I've gone, yes, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm going to save you, I'm going to save you. And I did it and I did it and I did it. It was destroying me and we had nothing. We had nothing. It was always like breadcrumbs, always like, oh, we'd get offered the bare minimum. And I had no way to survive, if you like, when we're not together. It was impossible way of living. My whole existence was those moments, and it can't be. That's not healthy. So, although sometimes it's going to disappoint my daughter, but it's very rare that I would do this. But it will disappoint her. But it also shows her that it's important that we do work on ourselves. You know, we stand up for ourselves. There are lessons in everything we do, and they do watch and notice. Because this holiday, effectively, if you think about it anyway, because I thought about it, this holiday was never planned for me. It was just thrown at me at the last moment. They didn't care whether I was involved in the decision process or not. They just made it at the last minute to serve them. Then they realised, wait a minute, I don't think she's going to like it round my family's home. I was expecting him to just come running because he always does. Huh. How did that work out for you? Unless you make a stand in life, people will walk over you for the entirety of it. You have to sometimes sacrifice, and those sacrifices are freaking heartbreaking. I don't get as many holidays with my daughter as I'd like. We had 10 days at Christmas, but that's probably the longest one we had. It's those times when you just don't want to let them go, and you want them to. And I'm destroyed. I am, even now. I can seem stoic, like I don't care. But even leading up to that, I'm like every week it's hard for me. I want her home. I want that life. That's the life I want. So you'd think I would go running now, because if you cared and you want that, you would go running. But you look at what you're running to. I'm running towards a nightmare, really. It's not natural. And I said this through family court as well. I refuse to have an unnatural relationship with my daughter. I said this. Everything they were offering was always these temporary things where you sort of spend time nearby a hotel or something, or these weekends visits, spend that with the family, with her, and it's like this is not the life I want. Yeah, spending time together is hugely important, and it's the best thing I could ever have. I want a home. I want that life, and we haven't even been able to have that often at all. It's always surrounded with other people, because it's the only way to make it practical most of the time. And it's like, this is not happening anymore. We're not having this life. I'm not having this life. I'm not having this shoestring life, and this life where I'm sort of left moment to moment, not knowing what's happening. Her bedroom barely ever being used. And it's like, my life is here, but yet we have to spend together there. Where is it? Where does normality sit, you know? But yeah, there would be people that say you should be taking the breadcrumbs all the time. Of course you should. That's their perspective. It's up to them. But I would say some of these people are going to live that life where people are going to dominate them forever. I say people sometimes have to live in their reality, and sometimes they have to face that reality themselves. It's not a refusal to travel. It's saying you could have planned this far better. And if you really wanted her to spend time with me, you would have done 50% of the journey, and I would do 50% of the journey. But the only way we're going to do 50% of the journey each is if I spend it away from home. You know, for me to do one trip there and back, which would be the same as them coming to get her on a Friday. So I could have done that. I could have that if that was possible. Even finances are that bad. I don't even know if I can. But let's say I did pick her up and then bring her home. That's 200 miles. That's 4 hours of driving. That would have to happen, and then they collect her. They're not gonna collect her. So for me to do that same driving, I just have to spend that whole period there at my mum's and then come back. Why? Because they won't travel to meet me. Because they wanna do it their way. Because they're not traveling for me. They're not traveling for my daughter. They're traveling for themselves. They're trying to escape a life they don't like. Effectively, every holiday, they travel back to their hometown. They've missed, just to put it into perspective, I don't want to sort of dig into people here. This is the whole reason for this. And I recognize through family court, it was never about my daughter, the travel. It was always about their own life. They spent Christmas with their family. They spent New Year's with their family. They're spending Valentine's Day with their family. Does that demonstrate someone that's in a happy, loving relationship when they've sort of missed that person on Christmas, New Year, and Valentine's Day? That's not a loving relationship. That's someone that's running away from a life they've built and they're not happy with it. And then when they run away, they're sort of hoping that I just jump around after them. And I'm thinking, maybe I'll leave you for this time, this moment, to the life you've been building, and you can bear the consequences for a moment because that's what you've created. You expected me to come running. Maybe in the future you realize, have a conversation, plan it accordingly, and stop making me jump all over the place because I'm here. I'm not refusing to see my daughter. If you want to bring her to me, you can bring her to me. Do you know what I mean? But I'm the bad guy, and it's always the case. We all see things differently, of course. There'll be some dads that say, oh, well, I wouldn't do that. It's like, yeah, live in my shoes for 7 years. This isn't a one moment thing. This isn't me just refusing point blank every time. Every other time I'm running around. There's only been 1 or 2 times when I've actually stood my ground. And believe me, it breaks my heart when I do. Even though last night I was tugging at it. Like, do I go? Do I not go? Do I not go? And time's ticking because you lose the moment. If you're going to go, the time is now. I'm having this fight all night. This isn't a case of me just going, this is the right thing to do. You're perfect. No. This is me beating myself up the whole way through. This is me challenging myself and saying, look, this isn't right. This doesn't add up. We can fight against this, but you're just going to build an unstable future. There's so many facets to it. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. How do you instigate change if you don't stand your ground, though? Where does it end? The rabbit run of nonsense continues. Don't stand your ground now. Have the same thing at Easter. Same thing summer. Perhaps they throw in the odd half term you didn't even plan on. Perhaps you're working at that point. Perhaps you have an employer that just won't let you have that time off. Now you've got to quit that job if you're going to prioritize your child to the extent. And I was doing that. I kept quitting jobs in the past. Oh yeah, they like that. Give me an unstable life because that's all I can have. Just destroying any semblance of reality I could have just to have those little fragments of time with my daughter because she's my world. That's what all the parties know. They know I'll do it. So sometimes when I stand my ground, I look like the asshole. It's like, what am I being offered here? Hardly fair terms. I just want a normal life. I don't want this fantasy life anymore. I don't want this fairy tale nonsense they're trying to build. You know, it's fake. It's a fake reality they're creating. This reality where you have to spend time with your child at your parents' home because it's convenient and it's the only real way, it's the only stable way of doing it to make it practical. What is that? That's not a normal life. Just because they live a weird life where they don't spend the significant periods with their partners and they never travel with their partner either. I ain't living a life like that. When I'm in a relationship, it's going to be loving and we're going to be connected and we're going to live our life together. It's going to be a fair, balanced relationship. So I'm looking on thinking, what are you teaching our child? In terms of relationships, it's very dysfunctional. I'm teaching her something slightly different here. I'm teaching her when it's important to stand your ground. You know, stand up for yourself is very important. She knows majority of the time I will come to her rescue. Sometimes she's going to have to sort of face things herself too, because that's for her to learn. I am always available though. So if she calls me, I'm here. She messages me, immediately responding. She wants to play a video game online together, we're there, we're doing it. So she's not entirely like isolated. It's just sometimes these things have to stop and change takes sacrifice. I refuse to live this weird nightmare the other person decides to live, because that's what it is. They live this weird life and you're expected to participate in it in whatever way they decide is normal. And it's like, this is not normal. This is dysfunctional on so many levels. Too many people find themselves trapped in relationships where it's for convenience rather than love. You know, maybe it provides some sort of stability, finances. Maybe you're in a strange in place now, so you kind of feel you have to stay there. That's your own creation. That's your own creation. I had nothing to do with that. You live by the sword you create, you know. Live and die by that sword. It's nothing to do with me. But don't expect me to transform my life to adapt to a dysfunctional life you're building, because I am not interested in that. Like I say, I'm here. At home, I would never refuse my daughter. So if she can come to my home and you can bring her to me, I will have that time with her. And that's how it is. So yeah, I understand how this looks, which is kind of why I'm going around in circles a little bit. But you've got to look at it from different perspectives too, I think, and have an open mind, and don't always follow the status quo. Because that's the problem. A lot of the time I see people follow what others are doing all the time and what becomes standard and normalized. And they think you're not committed to your child. My life is committed to my daughter. I'm also intent on teaching her to stand up for herself, have strong boundaries, do the right thing, speak up for yourself. And the other way to look at it is, this wasn't a holiday that was planned. They even said that before. We never actually weren't sure. Now we're doing this, and she's sorry, like her mother's sorry that it's short notice because she knows I'm not happy with all this short notice thing. So I complain about the short notices, and then they give me the shortest notice they could have ever given me. You tell me on Friday night that you're travelling Sunday, because I thought maybe they're going to be in the following Sunday. I said, you talk about this Sunday? And they go, yeah. I go, how the hell you tell me that now? That's ridiculous. We're nearly at Saturday already. Come on. Anyway, I don't know where I was going towards the end there, so I've lost a bit of track because that's irritated me. It's just ridiculous on so many levels what we have to contend with, and it's just, where does it end, you know? Like I say, I've done the best. I do the best I can at a given moment, but I have my limits. And sometimes we're placed where we need to be placed to teach us as well. The signs I'm getting in my life is that I need to start standing my ground more, focus on me, because there's a like I said, there's a thing in society where we place others above ourselves, especially our children, which is right for the most part. But there has to be a point where we love ourselves too, and we focus on what we need as well. And that's not dismissing them, because like I said, I'm available. But it does set me back an awful lot when we separate again. And I've got projects at the moment, and I think, like I say, this wasn't a planned holiday anyway. I wasn't expecting to see it till Easter now. We'd spent a huge time at Christmas. I'm like, okay, so between Christmas, then we'll see each other Easter. So to have this curveball thrown, it's not really my fault because there was no planning of it. No one told me. It's just like thrown like a firework out randomly. It's like, what on earth is going on? If you knew, you could have told me. So I haven't actually done anything wrong in a sense because it was never planned. I was only expecting Easter, which is still the plan. You know, you just thrown a random at me and expected me to come chasing, and it's like, well, I can't right now. I wish I could. As you can see, though, there's so many facets to anything. There usually is an underlying decision, though, but all the other little facets just add up and create that, reaffirm it, really. So even if they had told me in advance, if they had told me in advance, I would have, in this instance, not always going to be possible, because if you're employed by someone, you're not going to have a million holidays a year. You can only work so much out. It's often the case with me. Let's say, because I never know anything in advance. All I know roughly. So let's say it's the summer. I might book 2 weeks off in the summer because I think, right, we'll have the first 2 weeks. It makes it simple if I notice it. If I just say it's the first 2 weeks, and then I maybe only get a week's holiday with her, and then I've wasted another. I don't know exactly how long I'm going to get. So let's say you're at work and you book, you end up using holidays up. You don't even know you need it because you don't know how long you've got. And then later on, you've got Easter. And I'm in half term, so you book a whole week for half term. You think, I'll have to book that off. And you're thinking, I'm going to run out of holidays this year. I haven't got that many to use. And then all of a sudden, you've used a week's worth of holidays, and you're only getting 3 days together because you thought you'd get the week, but you only really got 3 days. So you've travelled all that distance back and forth, for barely any time together. and you've wasted holidays that you could have used on a different period, all because of that lack of communication. Don't talk. They don't explain anything. This is before I blocked them. I've just got fed up with the games. It's like if you can't communicate, and every time you do, it's already negative. I can't have this around me. This is toxic. I don't want a part of it. You live your life. I live mine. All I need is dates and times. That's fine. I don't even get that. Anyway, it's been a lot longer than I planned. I know it doesn't paint me in the best of lights, but there's always a method to the madness. I've wrote books on what I've been through so people have a deeper understanding of where I've been. I am currently writing the next one, but I'm not even sure if whether I'll publish it because I haven't decided 100% on it. But hopefully what I'm saying of free people, though, to stand their ground a bit more. It's not about dismissing your child because, like I said, I'm available. I'm here. Just a bit of communication wouldn't hurt in advance. And there's going to be times when you're going to have to make difficult decisions for the greater good. Because you need to build a life of stability anyway. Doing that rabbit chase constantly, that's no good for anyone. You just like I said, you just live a life on a shoestring. You want to build a life of stability. Then from that stability, you can build success. Then when you've got that success and then your child comes home to you, that's far more grounded and prosperous and it's thriving and it's a better life. Without that, you're left with nothing on a continual basis. And I believe that's where a lot of fathers lose themselves. Life loses meaning and you just think I'm not providing anything of substance to my child. So some sadly take their lives because they feel useless. I can't provide anything for them. I'm not happy. I don't know what I'm going to do. This life isn't good for anyone. And then they just disappear. They can't handle it anymore. Because it's freaking heartbreaking. I feel guilty myself by saying no. Every time I say no, I feel guilty. And a huge part of me just wants to throw myself in the car and go and get them. But it takes that strength within me to say, look, no, this isn't right. This doesn't feel like it should happen. All the signs I'm getting are not adding up. It's just not adding up. Nothing adds up to me traveling apart from my ego throwing me to save her like Superman. But yeah, I can't save her. All I can do is get a few days and then she has to go back anyway. And sometimes people have to be in uncomfortable situations to see the reality of their existence. So my ex can play like it's the perfect family. It's very dysfunctional. And then if she never has to spend time, my daughter has to spend time with her family, they can act like it's all loving and it's all love. It's great because they don't have to face the reality of witnessing that situation. But on this instance, they're going to have to face it. Is that how you perceive it in your mind? Or is it different than what you expected? My daughter's always wanted to come home to me. She always wanted to live with me. I've always wanted her living with me. I do what I can just to spend time together, but I think this has to be a reality check on every level here. And let it play out. It's playing out because, like I said, it was never my holiday in the first place. So as much as I feel guilty internally, in so many ways, it just wasn't planned. I couldn't anticipate it. It was unanticipated. Their holidays are often different times to the local ones near me. So they have a holiday at a different time anyway. So I didn't even know this was the date. I thought it was going to be next Sunday earlier. If the holiday was then, it was next Sunday, but I didn't think I was seeing her anyway. So to be told now that it's this Sunday, it's like, are you for real? That's literally the day after next, in like a day and a half at this point. Are you nuts? This is crazy. Who lives like this? I can't live like it. So yeah, there is disappointment. It is going to break my heart, especially when the holiday finishes, because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking we could have had that time together. But then I'm thinking, I haven't got any money now because I've spent it on that, which I needed, which was going to help me career, but up until we see each other again anyway. The amount of videos and content I'll create in the meantime, it's like, I need this. Because the way I seek video content as well is stuff that stays for lifetime. The longer you have poor quality, the longer you get more poor quality to draw upon. It's not to say put it first, but it's just another thing. But like I said, there's so many angles to this that's just it doesn't add up. It just doesn't. Yeah, so I'm sort of left in confusion myself, really, just wondering what could have been, But it's always a case of what could have been. If only this had happened. If only this had happened. It never does. If only they had spoken to me sooner, we could have arranged something. If only they could have travelled halfway like to me, and then I dropped them back off after. That would have been great. Yes, that's supportive. That's fair. And if we'd planned that in advance, that would have happened. But to throw it to me the last moment when I actually have no money, and I have to sort of stay in a place that doesn't have a bed, and it's not my home, all because my daughter would rather spend time with me in that environment than she would in the environment she finds herself in. I mean, that says a lot anyway, doesn't it? She wants to be with me.
I debated whether to share the video because my actions contradicted what was bothering me. But I feel like the content of the video is still relevant. I think it's really important that people hear the message within it. It pertains to the relationship with my daughter and the struggle parents have to go to when they deal with the controlling dominant parent, if you like. I reached a situation where I just couldn't afford to travel. I was given no notice of the time we're about to spend together. I've already made it clear so many times. We need to plan better. I need to be informed earlier so I can make adjustments accordingly. Again, I was literally given a 1 or 2 days notice of travel, and then I had to travel up and down the country. It's the cost of it all that really gets too much for me. It reached a point where I had car insurance about to go out. I couldn't afford to miss the payment. It would have got cancelled. Without a car, you are limited in every area of your life. So once that got paid, I was like, if I pay the petrol, the fuel to travel, I'm going to have like £15 for the rest of the month. £15 to live on, not even enough to eat. And that's where I was stuck with. But if I was told earlier, I would have made adjustments and I would have had more money available. But I didn't know this was even happening. In the end, I went to travel and then I had to just stop because I can't go. I wanted to pack as more than anything, but I was like, financially, I just can't do this. So I had to sit still, and I left it a day because it seemed impossible. In the end, I decided to travel because I was like, there's nothing's going to stop us being together and spending this time. So we lost a day. We ended up spending 3 days together. It was great, but it comes at immense sacrifice, And it's like I just wanted to share the video to explain that. And it contradicts because in the video I said I'm not traveling because it's impossible. But as always, I tend to go and spend time with her anyway because when you think about it, it's like those are the moments that are my year. Out of everything I achieve throughout the year, it's those times together that are just my everything. And to deny myself and her of those moments, it's like, what's the point of life, But it's annoying that people have control of us,